Mark, who do we have on Skype with us?
Stephen Aaron Gray. Stephen, you there?
Yes, I am. How are you guys?
Very good. Now, you're also known as DJ Freaky Flow?
That's right. Yeah, for about 21 years, music has been my career, and
Wow.
yeah, I'd say more people in the world know me as Freaky Flow than Stephen Aaron Gray, for sure.
You've certainly got a popular Facebook page, but you actually wrote a very libertarian novel called Ant Farm that we've been talking about here on Free Talk Live.
Yes, yeah, I did. It's very pro-liberty. I would say it leans anti-state, much like I do. And yeah, it sounds a little strange to my music fans that I'd write a book that has nothing to do with music, but here it is.
What was your inspiration?
I think my inspiration from being on the road, playing a number of different countries over the years, was just taking notice of what works well for people and what doesn't. And I noticed that people are generally, happier and more prosperous in environments where they're more free and where there's less government control in their lives. And I thought about all the people that listen to my music and that maybe have no interest in anything philosophical. And I thought, how can I write a book that appeals to them and introduces these ideas of liberty to really, average people and also younger people? So that was really what inspired me to write this book.
Incredible. So I know that it was kind of based on the Animal Farm. I mean, it has that Animal Farm feel to it. Is that what you were aiming for?
Yeah, absolutely. That was definitely one of the main inspirations. I remembered back to when I was young, and I think it was junior high, probably eighth grade. One of the forced reading pieces in government school in Canada, which is where I lived at the time in Toronto, was George Orwell's Animal Farm. And it was really the first piece of political philosophical allegory that I read, and my first introduction at such a young age to ideas that were greater than what was just literally on the page. And as I was getting the ideas to write my book, Ant Farm, I was thinking about what's a good sort of structure that I can introduce these ideas to people that may not otherwise be interested in these ideas. And so there's a lot of parallels between my book and his book, but there's a very different philosophy there, I think.
Now, I know you had a small publisher for the book, and that resulted in you having to do the marketing yourself.
Yeah,
And
most of it.
I imagine your DJ Freaky Flow business has a lot to do with marketing yourself too. Tell me about what you've managed to do in this area of marketing, and how do these things correspond? How are they similar? How are they different? What do you do? Any tips for people that might be trying to do what you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you've already got if you're able to secure a deal with a small publisher, but the marketing is left up to you, like it is for me, it does help to have an existing fan base somewhere, which I did through music. So I'm trying to leverage those fans who are interested in the musical things that I've been doing for years to try and get them interested in things that are a little more, I don't want to say intellectual, because my book isn't a heavy intellectual piece. It's really, there's no hard data, and there's no Latin words in my book or anything like that. So, trying to get those people interested in my book, I'm giving away free music to them. And then also, I don't want to alienate people in the literary world that have no idea or have never heard the name Freaky Flow. So I've kind of kept those streams separate, but there is some overlap there. So, giving away stuff free is always a huge help. I'm giving away the first 4 chapters written for free on antfarmbook.com. And then at my music site at freakyflow.com, I'm giving the first 4 chapters away as audiobook chapters. Because I figure my music fans are probably more likely to want an audio version of the book.
Did you voice it?
Yeah, I voiced it.
Well, there you go. It's you got all that work done yourself. What about? There's a lot of people who publish libertarian books, right? There's Healing Our World. There's Harry Brown's body of work. Just a
countless.
Countless. It's happening all the time. What made you think that you were going to be of any success? Well, why'd you have to put out Ant Farm? There's so many books out there.
There are a lot of books out there. One of the ones you mentioned is really a personal favorite, and that's Mary Ruwart's Healing Our World. But I feel like a lot of these books really preach to the converted, for lack of a better word. Maybe not Mary
Yeah.
Ruwart so much, but at least they're still preaching to people that are already interested in philosophy. My book is really trying to go after people that have never even thought about philosophy before and sort of lure them in. And I don't think there's any pro-liberty books or voluntarist books that really do that, unless I'm mistaken. And certainly, if there are, I think not a lot of them are fictional, and not a lot of them are really geared towards, philosophical lay people that have no idea what, say, the non-aggression principle might be. My book doesn't even mention the non-aggression principle, but it incorporates the non-aggression principle through a narrative story and shows people why that's a good principle. Through the characters and their interactions, it shows that the characters that abide by the non-aggression principle tend to do well and live fruitful lives, and the people that are the ants, rather, that want to go ahead and violate that principle create all kinds of just horrible things in their world, and much in the same way that's happening all over the world today, including in the U.S. and in Canada and many other places too.
I think it's interesting, that you've got this career. You said a 20-year-long career in music.
Yeah.
And have you been a DJ? I see on your Facebook page you're a drum and bass DJ. Have you been doing that the whole 20 years, or did you start in a band, or what was your history there?
I started as a hip hop DJ. My first musical passion was hip hop, and then I got into drum and bass just a couple of years later, and I started incorporating hip hop into my drum and bass. And so, yeah, for almost all of those 20 years, I've been DJing drum and bass with a little bit of hip hop sprinkled in, and also, I like other genres of music too, so I'll blend those into my DJ sets as well.
Now, are you producing original music, or are you just DJing other people's music?
Over the years, I've gone through phases when there's time to produce my own music as well. I do have a series of new songs coming out later this year. A couple of them will be given away later in the year on freakyflow.com, and then a couple of them are coming out on a small label, a U.S. label called Symbolism Recordings. So I've got about six new tracks in the pipeline that I've been involved in producing.
Now, I'm not familiar with what drum and bass is, and I, barely know hip hop, right?
Sure.
I haven't listened to any of your music. I certainly read your book, and it's great, and I highly recommend it. As I especially just love the way that it kept flowing into each other. It's a short read, but it's really succinct. What can you explain what drum and bass is for people like me who just don't know this stuff? I mean, it sounds self-explanatory.
It may sound that way because, two of the heaviest parts or the most important parts are the drums and the bass, but it's certainly, you don't hear the words and know immediately what it sounds like, I think. Basically, it's a form of electronic music, but it's a really sort of niche and a little more obscure. It's not as big or as popular as house or trance or dubstep, but it's been around for a very long time. And, if you think of your standard house music song in about the 120, 130 BPM range, beat per minute range, drum and bass is really fast. It's more in the 175, 180 beat per minute range. So it's really a high. Sorry, why?
I said, oh my.
Oh, okay.
I suppose why is because somebody will buy it, would be my guess, is the reason why. Somebody wants to hear it.
Hey, Stephen, can you stick with us for another segment here? I've got some more questions for you.
Sure, of course,
All right.
happy to.
Stephen Aaron Gray is with us, a.k.a. DJ Freaky Flow.
So 180 beats per minute, is that like the kind of thing that people do, like, spin cycling to, or, like aerobic? I really don't know.
Electronic music's great to listen to when you're doing,
exercise, right? Like you want to do something,
or driving or whatever. Hey, stand by. We're going to bring you back here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. I know Derek J. and I have been to our share of rave parties, so we've definitely experienced
much
some
more experience than
drum and bass. There's more coming up here in moments. This is Free Talk Live. Stephen Aaron Gray, a.k.a. DJ Freaky Flow. Welcome back to Free Talk Live. Thanks for sticking with us for a little bit here.
Of course, my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, so you're a DJ. You've been doing this for 20 years, which is quite a career. You've built up a bit of a fan following, and that's helped you launch this book that we've been talking about on the air called Ant Farm, which you can go to, I believe it's antfarmbook.com to check out the first 4 chapters for free. And you said that your DJ business has sort of helped you promote this book out there. And I kind of wanted to talk to you about, being a DJ and that aspect of things and the audience out there. Having been to a number of rave parties myself over the years, and Derek J, I think, as well, it's my impression, and I'm wondering if you agree with this, that the audience in the rave scene tends to lean to the left. Would that be true from your perspective?
I would say no. I would disagree. I would
Really?
say that they're completely apolitical for the most part.
Okay.
I think you're probably right in just the general sense of from issue to issue, maybe they think of themselves as very compassionate, or so they think, and so maybe they would align left on most issues or some issues. But I think for the most part, they don't even think about these issues.
Hmm.
A lot of them are very music and art driven, and sometimes they don't think about the greater issues, things that affect their lives and their families' lives, and so that's unfortunate to me. And I wanted to sort of use this book as an opportunity to serve as a wake up call for some of these people that don't necessarily think of these issues. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. So, what sort of response have you been getting from people? I mean, how easy or difficult is it to integrate promoting a book into appearing at a party where
It's got to be difficult.
Yeah, a lot of people
It's
are there.
definitely.
They're there to have fun. They're there to party. Some of them are on drugs. How do you do that? Because I mean, it's one thing if you're like a musician and you're selling T-shirts. That's the obvious thing, or selling CDs. But you've got a book on your table, so to speak. What's that like?
That's right. Yeah, well, I did just have a DJ gig in Baltimore this past weekend on Saturday night. I started at 2 a.m., which is not uncommon.
Yep.
And before that, they had a sort of an in-house merch booth, and so I left some of my books there, and then I put up some posters around. And the posters essentially say on them, "Freaky Flow wrote a new book. It's about philosophy, not music." And then there's a little message on there that says, free CD when you buy a book. So
Cool.
yeah, so really trying to entice these people to become interested in it through offering them freebies, free music, which I think people love free stuff. They love free music. So that worked well. And then again, I've tried to make it so that the message of the book, even though at its core it's a very pro-liberty message, certainly on its surface, when you read the book, you're not going to immediately think, wow, this is a really political or a very philosophical book. It's a really sort of simple story that I think, even if you've had no history in politics or philosophy, you'll understand what's going on. I really tackle all kinds of issues in this book, from healthcare to gun control to, wages and unions and, all kinds of things that you see in the news every day. And I'm sure these people that go to these events and people in the music world, they encounter these things and just don't always think about them as concretely as maybe you or I or some of your regular listeners do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's really been the idea, is to get people at these events, but also book people, people that are interested in literature, to pick up this book and, get the free chapters at antfarmbook.com.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
then,
it's not hard to get libertarians to pick up a book, which is why I was more interested in hearing, what's the music scene like? How's that working? So I'm glad to hear you're saying it's actually worked, that people are buying the book, if ostensibly to get the free CD. But if you're going to buy a book to get a free CD, hopefully you're going to read the damn book too, I would think.
yeah, I was concerned before I started writing this that if music people go and buy this book, it can't be something that's really too heavy, or I don't want a book with tons of statistics,
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to throw it away immediately. I think that this still relates to their creative sensibilities enough that they'll want to continue reading.
Smart stuff. Any, you guys got some questions?
A lot of times, DJs tend to be regional. Are you regional in a particular area, or
International?
Yeah, I don't really know much about this other than DJs tend to be regional.
I guess some DJs tend to be regional. Through my career, I've played in about, I think, 10 different countries, and I used to do a lot more international travel about 10 years ago, but it really got to be draining. I was going to Europe probably 2 or 3 times a year, Asia about once a year. And so in the last 10 years or so, I've tried to limit my travel just within North America, just Canada and the US. So, I've enjoyed a good amount of success around the world, but it's pretty draining to several times a year take off for 2-3 weeks to a different country. It's much easier for me to, I live in Los Angeles now, so it's much easier to just fly out on a Friday and fly back home on a Saturday and not have to be on the road for so long.
Very cool. Stephen Aaron Gray, appreciate you coming on Free Talk Live here tonight. And by the way, the book is available when you go to antfarmbook.com. You click through, you'll be able to get it through Amazon. And of course, if you want to, you can also go to amazon.freetalk or shop.freetalklive.com, and you can go through the Amazon link there and then search for Ant Farm, a novel about what's bugging society. I love the subtitle there. And thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Guys, thank you. Appreciate it.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.